Hola muchachos, ¿qué tal? Buenos días. Aquí tienen el horario para hoy, miércoles, el 19 de abril. Your homework due for today was core workbook pages 73, 78, and 81. Your homework for next class is the Quizlet vocab practice for chapter 4B, which we will begin next class. The main part of the agenda for today is taking your quiz on the imperfect, which if we take a look at, and the homework as well to review for it, essentially is everything that we've gone over thus far this chapter. Since we've come back from spring break, we've covered chapter 4A. Chapter 4A, all about your childhood, beginning with the vocabulary on page 186 and 187. Toys, pets, activities that we used to enjoy, places we used to go to when we were a child. That's on page 186 and 187. Fast forwarding to page 194 has the regular AR, ER, and IR endings in the imperfect. And the imperfect again is used to talk about actions that happen repeatedly in the past as opposed to the preterite, to talk about just one moment in the past. So again, there you have your regular AR, ER, and IR endings in the imperfect, followed by irregular verbs, ir, ser, and ver, which are outlined on page 196. And then what we went over together last class, indirect object pronouns indicate to whom or for whom an action is done. They essentially indicate the recipient of the action of a verb, and you can find those indirect object pronouns there at the bottom of page 199. Me, te, le, nos, and les. So if we take a look at your homework that is due for today, let's do it this way. Essentially reviewing the pages that we just took a look at. If you also take a look at page 208, that has kind of a zoomed out glossary of all of the key terms and concepts for this chapter. Adjectives to describe what people were like when they were young. Toys that you used to enjoy to play with. Animals and pets. Activities you used to enjoy, along with the grammar of verbs in the imperfect. So, taking a look at pages 73, 78, and 81. Here you're going to, and you can watch the video as well for detailed instructions on how to go about it. But essentially what we did here is for part A, you guys are identifying the key vocabulary term that matches the description. And again, you can go to page 208 for those definitions. If we do the first three together as an example, de niño me gustaba hacer casas y carreteras con mis bloques. Hacer casas and carreteras is to make houses in freeways or highways. Bloques makes sense there, to build those things, to do those things, or make those things rather. A los 3 años, Claudia ya sabía montar en triciclo. We know from the verb montar, which is the verb to ride. Do one more together. Pablo siempre duerme con su oso de peluche. Oso de peluche because of the key phrase there, duerme, the verb dormir, to sleep, and peluche being stuffed. All right, part B, doing a couple here, just as an example. Compare the analogies between the words from your vocabulary. Salir and llegar are antonyms. They have the opposite meaning from one another. Salir is to leave. Llegar is to arrive. Prohibir is the verb to prohibit, so we're looking for the opposite. And again, page 208 would be a great place to look. Permitir is the verb to permit. Lavar and limpiar are synonymous, similar in meaning. Lavar is to wash, limpiar is to clean. So we're looking for something similar in meaning to compartir, and that would be ofrecer, the verb to offer. Similar to compartir, to share. And again, all the key vocabulary you can find here on page 208, the textbook. Let's go to the next page, page 78. You're using the verbs ir, ser, or ver to talk about what life was like when Susana and Martin were children. And they used to live in the country. We're using the verb to go, ir, to be, ser, and ver, which is the verb to watch. You have those irregular conjugations again on page 196. And so ir is always going to be followed by a place, because it's talking about going to that place. Ser, the verb to be, more often than not going to be followed by an adjective, because you're describing what something was like in the past. And then ver is just going to be something that you used to watch, like ver la televisión, or ver una película, or ver un partido. Película is a film, partido is a game, and then of course televisión is TV or tele. So if we do a few as an example, and I'll zoom in here so y'all can see better. All right, mi familia y yo vivíamos en el campo. My family and I used to live in the countryside. La casa era muy grande. Era, using the verb ser, because we're describing with an adjective, grande, meaning large, we're describing what the house was like. La casa era muy grande. Mis abuelos vivían con nosotros. My grandparents used to live with us. Ellos eran pelirrojos. They used to be red-headed. Pelirrojo is a characteristic or an adjective. Eran pelirrojos cuando nosotros éramos jóvenes. Jóvenes is young. All of the first three answers are the verb ser, because we're using adjectives to describe what something was like in the past. The correct answer here, ser, in the nosotros form, éramos. Cuando nosotros éramos jóvenes. So that's essentially what you're going to do for the rest of this activity. The ones that you really may struggle with are this blank here. This is the expression, rather, to go by foot, synonymous with caminar, right? To go by foot to school. This lo que refers to something that you saw while on your way to school. So this is going to be the verb ver, and it's hard to tell. If anything, you would think the verb ir should be used here, but it's not referring to going to school, it's referring to seeing things on the way to school. Hard to discern that. This is probably, I would say, late level 3, level 4 level grammar. So ver for that second blank in the second paragraph. And the only other one that might be tricky would be this second blank in the third paragraph. Ir de pesca is to go fishing. It's a phrase using the verb ir, similar to ir a pie, ir de pesca, ir de compras. Ir de compras is to go shopping. So the verb ir should be used here in the second blank in the last paragraph. And then the last page is pretty self-explanatory in that you are just pulling that key vocabulary and grammar from page 208 and organizing it. This last page, page 81, is as what we call graphic organizer, just an opportunity for you to take inventory of all the key vocabulary and grammar that we discussed in this chapter. You guys are then going to take your quiz on the imperfect out of 40 points. You'll have the remainder of the period to do so. And then when you guys are done, you're going to work on the Quizlet practice for Chapter 4B. We're going to dive into Chapter 4B when we see each other again. You'll do the flashcards, learn, and write activities. However, if the right does not appear, you're welcome to do either the test or the match or any other of the activities that are available. And you're going to take screenshots of each. You do not need to pay for an account. You do need a Quizlet account that you can create for free using your Google account or just signing in and creating an account in Quizlet. But if you're ever prompted with a premium account to advance, you don't need to sign up for a premium account. Just take a snapshot of the progress that you've made, and that will more than suffice.